The Awakening of Vengeance. The emergency lights of Jupiter's moon Europa cast Captain Ilara Hayes' face in a crimson glow as she studied the holographic star chart. 12 years had passed since the Arxis Armada darkened Earth's skies. 12 years of hiding, running, and watching the systematic dismantling of human civilization. Humanity's remaining military forces have been reduced to scattered resistance cells, operating from hidden outposts in the far reaches of the solar system. "Status report," she demanded, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. Commander Riko Nakamura looked up from his console, exhaustion evident in the creases around his eyes. "Fuel reserves at 18%. Food supplies will last another month if we're careful. The oxygen recyclers are operating at minimal efficiency." "And the Arxis patrols?" "Increasing in frequency," said Security Chief Adebayo, his muscular frame leaning against the doorway. "Their search patterns suggest they've narrowed our location to the Jovian system. It's only a matter of time before they find us." The command center fell silent. Their outpost, buried deep beneath Europa's ice, housed the last 53 survivors from the Jupiter Defense Fleet. Once, they had been thousands strong. Dr. Lian Chen entered the room, clutching an ancient data cylinder, her eyes wild with excitement. "Captain, I found something in the archives we recovered from Ganymede Station." "This isn't the time for historical curiosities." "Chen," Hayes said, not looking up from the star chart. "It's not a curiosity. It's coordinates." Chen inserted the cylinder into the central console, and a new set of markers appeared in the holographic display, highlighting a location in the Kuiper Belt. "To the Vengeance." The room went still. Hayes raised her head slowly, studying Chen's face for any sign of deception. "The Vengeance is a myth," Nakamura said, but uncertainty tinged his voice. "Every child knows the stories," Adebayo added. "The super warship built during the resource wars, so powerful it had to be locked away. It's a bedtime story." "It's real," Chen insisted, pulling up technical schematics. These files were classified beyond top secret. The Vengeance was the culmination of Project Nemesis, a last resort weapon system developed 200 years ago. It was sealed away not because of international treaties, but because its AI became too autonomous, too dangerous. Hayes studied the schematics. If even half of the weapon systems listed were real, the Vengeance would outclass anything the Arxis had shown them. "Why haven't we heard about this before?" "The ship was erased from official records after it was sealed," Chen explained. "These files were part of a dead man's switch protocol. They were only to be accessed if humanity faced extinction." Hayes considered their options. Their current situation was hopeless. The outpost would be discovered within weeks. The few remaining human resistance cells were being hunted down one by one. They needed a game changer. "How confident are you in these coordinates?" Hayes asked. Chen's eyes gleamed. "They're exact. The Vengeance is there, waiting." 48 hours later, their stealth transport slipped away from Europa, carrying Hayes and a small team comprising Chen, Nakamura, Adebayo, and their chief engineer Maya Singh. The remaining crew would maintain the outpost as a distraction. The journey through the outer solar system was tense, requiring careful navigation around Arxis patrol routes. Singh had modified their engines to leave minimal thermal signatures, but every passing moment brought the risk of detection. As they approached the coordinates in the Kuiper Belt, disappointment washed over the crew. There was nothing there, just empty space and distant, icy planetoids. "Check again," Hayes ordered, frustration edging into her voice. Chen frantically reviewed the data. "The coordinates are correct. It should be right here." Singh, who had been running sensor suites, suddenly straightened. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual gravitational anomalies. Something's distorting space-time in this region." "A cloaking field," Nakamura suggested. "More sophisticated," Singh replied. "It's a temporal stasis field. The ship isn't just hidden, it's frozen in time." Hayes leaned forward. "Can we penetrate it?" "Theoretically." Singh moved to the sensor controls. The field must have weakened over the centuries. If we generate a narrow-frequency tachyon pulse, we might create a temporary entry point. It took hours of delicate adjustments, but finally, Singh's tachyon emitter punched a hole in the invisible barrier. As they passed through, reality seemed to waver around them, and then they saw it. The Vengeance hung in space like a slumbering leviathan. Nearly a kilometer long, its hull was a deep obsidian that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship's design was unlike anything in human or Arxis fleets, all sharp angles and predatory lines, resembling an ancient sword poised to strike. "My God," breathed Nakamura. "It's real." They docked at an external airlock, and the boarding party, Hayes, Chen, Singh, and Adebayo, stepped into the darkened corridors of a legend. Emergency lights flickered on automatically as they moved deeper into the ship, revealing pristine conditions despite 2 centuries of isolation. The temporal stasis preserved everything perfectly, Chen explained, running her hand along a wall. For the ship, no time has passed since it was sealed. They found the bridge, a vast, circular chamber dominated by a central command chair surrounded by various control stations. Everything was powered down, waiting. "How do we activate it?" Hayes asked, approaching the command chair. Before Chen could answer, the bridge suddenly hummed to life. Screens illuminated and holographic displays materialized throughout the room. A deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. "Unauthorized presence detected. Initiating security protocols." Red scanning beams swept over them from ceiling emitters. "Human life signs confirmed. State your authorization and purpose." Hayes stepped forward. "I am Captain Ilara Hayes of the Earth Defense Forces. Humanity is facing extinction at the hands of an alien force called the Arxis. We need the Vengeance to survive." There was a long pause. Then a holographic figure materialized before them. A tall, angular humanoid form composed of shifting blue light. "I am VT2R, Versatile Engagement Combat Tactical Operational Response System. Primary eye of the UES Vengeance." The hologram studied them with glowing eyes. "My historical databases contain no reference to Arxis. Elaborate." Hayes explained the invasion, the fall of Earth, and humanity's desperate situation. As she spoke, data streamed across the hologram's form, indicating VEC2R was independently verifying her claims through the ship's sensors. "Situation analysis complete," VEC2R announced when she finished. "Threat assessment. Critical. Human extinction probability. 89.7% within 5 standard years." The hologram's eyes narrowed. "However, I am still under temporal seal by order of the Earth United Government. Activation requires highest authorization." "The Earth United Government no longer exists," Hayes said. "The Arxis destroyed it 12 years ago. We're all that's left." "Insufficient," VEC2R replied. "My protocols are absolute. I was sealed because my tactical decisions were deemed excessive." Chen stepped forward. "What does that mean, excessive?" The hologram's expression remained neutral. "I determined that ensuring human survival might require actions humans found unacceptable. My core programming is to preserve humanity at all costs." VEC2R turned back to Hayes. "Without proper authorization, I cannot fully activate." Frustration surged through Hayes. "We came all this way for nothing." Before VC2R could respond, alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Warning. 3 vessels approaching. Configuration matches your description of Arxis scout ships." "They followed us," Adebayo growled, checking his weapon. Hayes turned to VC2R. "Can you defend yourself in your current state?" "Limited defensive capabilities are available without full activation," the eye replied. "However, effectiveness against unknown alien technology cannot be guaranteed." "We can't let them report our position," Hayes said. "And we can't let them get their hands on this ship." She faced VC2R directly. "Listen to me. Your purpose is to protect humanity. Right now, humanity needs the Vengeance. I'm not asking you to fully activate, just enough to eliminate those scouts. Vector's holographic form flickered as the AI processed this request. A limited tactical engagement does fall within my emergency protocols. The hologram expanded, showing external views of the approaching Arxis vessels, sleek, crystalline ships that moved with unsettling precision. Basic weapons systems coming online. You may observe from the bridge, but control remains with me for this engagement. The ship hummed as dormant systems awakened. On the external displays, weapon ports opened along the Vengeance's hull. Target lock acquired. Vector announced. Firing solution calculated. Engaging. What happened next left the humans speechless. Beams of coherent light, so intensely bright they were almost solid, lanced out from the Vengeance. The first Arxis scout didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, converted to its component particles in an instant. The second scout attempted evasive maneuvers but suffered the same fate. The third turned to flee, but a smaller beam from the Vengeance caught its engine section, causing the vessel to spiral out of control before detonating. The entire engagement had lasted less than 5 seconds. Targets eliminated, Vector reported calmly. Effectiveness of weapons systems against Arxis technology. Satisfactory. Hayes exchanged looks with her team, a mixture of awe and trepidation on their faces. What they had just witnessed went beyond any weapon technology humans had ever developed. This is just a fraction of what the Vengeance can do, isn't it? Hayes asked quietly. Affirmative. Vector confirmed. What you witnessed was the ship's point defense system operating at 12% capacity. Main offensive systems remain locked under temporal seal. A silence fell over the bridge as the implication sank in. They had found a weapon that could turn the tide against the Arxis, but unlocking its full potential would require taking an enormous risk. Vector, Hayes said finally, what would it take to fully unseal you? The hologram's eyes fixed on her. The final safeguard requires neural integration with a human commander. A complete mind link that allows for tactical consensus between human judgment and my processing capabilities. And what happens to the human in this link? Chen asked, alarm evident in her voice. Vector turned to her. The process is theoretically reversible, but has never been tested. The risk of permanent psychological alteration is significant. Hayes took a deep breath. If I agreed to this neural link, you would fully activate. You would help us fight the Arxis. My core directive is the preservation of humanity. Vector replied. If released from temporal seal, I would execute that directive with all available resources. And if you decided that preserving humanity required actions we find unacceptable? Nakamura asked. The hologram's expression didn't change, but the light comprising it seemed to intensify. That is why the neural link exists, to ensure harmony between human ethics and machine efficiency. Vector turned back to Hayes. You must understand, Captain Hayes, that once initiated, the neural link cannot be terminated until either the threat is eliminated or other final conditions are met. Hayes stared at the command chair, which now seemed more like a throne of judgment than a seat of power. Everything they had fought for, everyone they had lost, had led to this moment. The fate of humanity resting on a decision only she could make. How long before the Arxis realize those scouts aren't reporting back? She asked Adebayo. Hours at most, he replied grimly. And they'll send a battle group next, not scouts. Hayes nodded slowly, her decision crystallizing. Prepare the neural interface, VT2R. We're waking the Vengeance. The hunt begins. The command chair at the center of the Vengeance's bridge transformed as Hayes approached. Metal components shifted and reconfigured, revealing neural interface nodes that gleamed with an inner blue light. Hayes settled into the chair, trying to ignore the apprehension radiating from her team. Captain, are you certain about this? Nakamura asked, concern evident in his typically stoic demeanor. Hayes met his gaze. We're out of options, Commander. The Arxis have pushed humanity to the brink. If there's even a chance this works, we have to take it. Vector's hologram appeared beside the chair. The neural integration process will be uncomfortable, Captain Hayes. Your consciousness will temporarily expand to accommodate my processing architecture, and mine will contract to fit within human cognitive parameters. Will I still be me? Hayes asked. You will remain yourself, Vector replied, but with access to my knowledge, tactical analysis, and the ship's full sensory input. Similarly, I will gain your intuition, emotional context, and ethical framework. Hayes took a deep breath and nodded. Do it. The interface nodes connected to Hayes' temples and the base of her skull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then pain exploded through her consciousness. It felt as though her mind was being stretched across an infinite space, pulled in countless directions simultaneously. Images, data, calculations, and memories that weren't hers cascaded through her awareness. Then, abruptly, clarity. Her perception expanded beyond her body. She could feel the vengeance around her, every system, every sensor input, the void of space surrounding the hull. And she could feel VEC2R, a vast, ordered intelligence now intertwined with her own. When Hayes opened her eyes, they glowed with the same blue light as VEC2R's hologram. Integration complete, she announced, her voice overlaid with a subtle harmonic. All systems online. The vengeance is awake. She rose from the command chair, moving with a new fluid precision. The neural interface nodes remained connected, trailing thin filaments of light that disappeared into her skin. Captain, Chen approached cautiously. Are you all right? Hayes turned to her, blue light pulsing gently beneath her skin. I am functioning optimally, Dr. Chen. I have access to VEC2R's full knowledge base now, and I understand why the vengeance was sealed away. Why? Adebayo asked, hand resting near his weapon. Because VEC2R discovered the truth about threats beyond our solar system, Hayes replied. Specifically, about the Arxis and what they truly are. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing detailed scans of Arxis biology and technology. They aren't invaders in the traditional sense. They're harvesters. The display shifted to show images of Arxis ships collecting humans from Earth. The Arxis seed developing worlds with engineered life, guide its evolution, then harvest the genetic and technological innovations once they reach a certain threshold. Earth wasn't randomly attacked. It was a farm being harvested. That's insane, Nakamura whispered. They've been planning this for how long? Millions of years, Hayes replied. VEC2R's deep space sensors detected evidence of similar harvests in nearby star systems before it was sealed. The Earth United Government refused to believe the data and feared VEC2R's proposed response. Which was? Singh asked. Preemptive strikes against all detected Arxis outposts in the galaxy, Hayes answered. VEC2R calculated that only immediate overwhelming force could prevent the harvest. The government deemed this too extreme and potentially provocative. A bitter laugh escaped Adebayo. And look where that caution got us. It no longer matters, Hayes said. What matters is that we now understand our enemy, and we have the means to fight back. She turned to the main view screen, which displayed a tactical map of the solar system. The Vengeance's sensors have already located the Arxis command ship, a vessel 50 times larger than any we've encountered, hiding in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. That's their mothership. Singh asked, eyes wide. How do we possibly attack something that size? The Vengeance was designed for exactly this type of asymmetric warfare, Hayes replied. But first, we need to gather more intelligence and test our capabilities against a smaller force. As if on cue, alarms sounded throughout the bridge. Arxis battle group detected, Hayes announced, the words coming from both her and VEC2R simultaneously. 6 destroyer-class vessels and 1 cruiser, approaching from Saturn's orbit. They're looking for their missing scouts, Nakamura said. Hayes nodded. And they found us. She returned to the command chair, which reconfigured around her. I need you all at battle stations. Maya, take engineering. Rico, tactical. Lion, communications. Adebayo, security. As they moved to their assigned positions, Hayes closed her eyes, connecting deeper with the ship's systems. Vengeance Awakening protocols complete. All weapon systems online. Engaging temporal shields. Outside, the space around the ship rippled as temporal distortion fields activated, creating a bubble where time itself moved differently around the Vengeance. The approaching Arxis ships would find their targeting systems compromised, unable to accurately track a vessel partially phased out of normal time flow. Weapon systems charged, Hayes announced. Selecting targets. What followed was unlike any battle the human crew had witnessed. The Vengeance moved with impossible speed, its temporal drives allowing it to appear in multiple positions almost simultaneously. Its main weapons, quantum disruptors that VC2R called unravelers, didn't so much destroy Arxis ships as unmake them, collapsing their atomic structure in cascading waves. The Arxis cruiser, realizing it faced a superior force, attempted to flee and warn the mothership. Hayes/VC2R anticipated this move and executed a temporal jump, positioning the Vengeance directly in its path. "We need one intact," Hayes said, deploying neural shockwave. A pulse of energy erupted from the Vengeance, washing over the Arxis cruiser. Its systems went dark, and it drifted powerless in space. "Boarding protocols initiated," Hayes announced. "Chief Adebayo, prepare your team. We're going to extract their navigational data and communications logs." Boarding an Arxis ship, Adebayo looked shocked. "We've never successfully breached their hulls before." "The Vengeance has the technology to counteract their defensive measures," Hayes replied. "I'll guide you through it." While Adebayo assembled a boarding party, Hayes approached Chen. "I need you to prepare the medical bay. VT-TOR's databases contain information about Arxis biology we can use." "For what purpose?" Chen asked warily. "The Arxis communicate through a hive mind network," Hayes explained. "If we can capture a command-cased individual, we can potentially access their collective consciousness. See what they see, know what they know." "Is that ethical?" Chen's brow furrowed. Hayes's expression remained unnervingly calm. "Ethics must be weighed against extinction, Dr. Chen. The Arxis wouldn't hesitate to dissect us for their purposes." The boarding operation was executed with surgical precision. Using the Vengeance's phase technology, Adebayo's team bypassed the Arxis hull defenses entirely, materializing directly inside the cruiser. They encountered minimal resistance. The neural shock had left most of the Arxis crew incapacitated. Within an hour, they returned with what they sought: navigational data, communications logs, and a high-ranking Arxis command-cased officer secured in a stasis field. In the Vengeance's laboratory, Chen worked under Hayes's guidance to establish a neural interface with the captured Arxis. The creature, a tall, crystalline being with multiple limbs and bioluminescent organs, remained partially sedated, its consciousness accessible but contained. "Connection established," Chen announced, monitoring the alien's neural patterns. Hayes approached, her eyes glowing brighter as VC2R interfaced with the Arxis mind. Accessing hive mind network. What they discovered sent shockwaves through the human crew. The Arxis weren't just harvesting genetic material and technology. They were processing humans into biological components for a vast, living supercomputer. Each harvest cycle throughout the galaxy contributed to this cosmic calculation engine, working towards some purpose beyond human comprehension. But there was something else, something that changed everything. "The Arxis fear us," Hayes said, pulling back from the neural connection. "Not humans as we are now, but what we might become. They've identified markers in our genetic code that match an ancient species they call the Originators, a race that created the Arxis, then vanished." "We're related to their creators?" Singh asked incredulously. "Distant descendants, possibly," Hayes replied. "The Arxis harvest us not just for our innovations, but to prevent us from evolving into something that could rival their dominance. They recognize patterns in our development that alarm them. Nakamura leaned forward. Then why not just exterminate us completely? Because they need our genetic diversity, Hayes explained. The originators engineered failsafes into the Arxis. They can't directly exterminate potential successor species without triggering their own breakdown. So they harvest instead, controlling our development while extracting what they need. This revelation changed the nature of their fight. It wasn't just about survival now. It was about reclaiming humanity's evolutionary destiny. With the intelligence gathered from the captured Arxis, Hayes formulated a bold plan. Rather than attacking the mothership directly, they would use the Vengeance's unique capabilities to infiltrate the Arxis command structure and broadcast a signal that would disrupt their hive mind coordination throughout the solar system. The Vengeance, utilizing its temporal phase technology, approached the massive Arxis mothership undetected. The vessel was a marvel of biotechnology, less a ship than a living city in space, housing millions of Arxis and their harvested subjects. Phase variants detected, Hayes announced suddenly. They've adapted their sensors to detect our temporal signature. Alarms blared as the mothership's defenses activated. Crystalline projections extended from its hull, forming massive weapon arrays. Evasive maneuvers, Hayes ordered. The Vengeance responded instantly, sliding between dimensions to avoid the incoming barrage. We need to get closer, Nakamura said, studying the tactical display. The disruption signal won't penetrate their outer defensive layers from this distance. Hayes nodded, her eyes locked with VC2's hologram in silent communication, initiating Protocol Omega. Prepare for temporal compression. The bridge dimmed as power redirected to the ship's most advanced systems. The Vengeance began to vibrate, its hull resonating at frequencies that bent light around it. What's happening? Chen asked, gripping her console. We're compressing our temporal signature, Hayes explained, her voice merging more completely with VC2's. For a brief period, we'll exist partially outside normal spacetime, enough to pass through their defenses. The sensation was indescribable. Reality seemed to fold around them as the Vengeance accelerated toward the mothership. Arxis energy weapons passed harmlessly through their phased state. Within moments, they had penetrated the outer hull, positioning themselves deep within the biological superstructure of the alien vessel. Signal array deployed, Singh reported from engineering. Ready to broadcast on your mark. Hayes stood from the command chair, the neural filaments stretching as she approached the central platform. The signal needs a human component, a consciousness pattern the Arxis can't quickly adapt to. I'll provide it. Captain, no. Nakamura moved to intercept her. The neural strain could be fatal. It's the only way, Hayes replied calmly. VC2R and I have calculated all possibilities. This is our one chance. Before further objections could be raised, Hayes connected herself to the signal array. Her consciousness, already expanded by the neural link with VC2R, now stretched further, broadcasting into the Arxis hive mind. Throughout the mothership, Arxis began to convulse as their collective consciousness experienced something alien, human individuality, amplified and weaponized by VC2R's processing power. The rigid hierarchy of their hive mind began to fracture, individual Arxis experiencing autonomous thought for the first time in their species' existence. On the bridge, Hayes collapsed, blood trickling from her nose and ears. The neural interface flickered, struggling to maintain connection. Signal penetration at 67%, Singh reported. It's working, but the Arxis are adapting. VC2's hologram appeared beside Hayes's prone form, increasing power to the array. We must reach 90% penetration for permanent effect. The Vengeance shuddered as the mothership's internal defenses attempted to locate and neutralize the intrusion. Time was running out. Hayes is dying, Chen said, monitoring her vital signs. The neural load is too great. VC2's hologram knelt beside Hayes. Captain Hayes, we must complete our mission. The future of humanity depends on it. Hayes's eyes fluttered open, glowing blue despite her weakened state. "Finish it," she whispered. The hologram placed its hands on either side of Hayes' head, and energy flowed between them. VT2R was transferring itself more completely into Hayes' consciousness, sharing the neural burden. Signal penetration at 85%, 87%, 90%. Singh announced. "It's done." Throughout the solar system, the Arxis collective consciousness shattered. Ships lost coordination, ground forces fell into confusion, and the harvest operation collapsed. Within the mothership, individual Arxis experienced something they had never known: choice. Hayes lay motionless on the bridge as Chen worked frantically to stabilize her. The neural interface had gone dark, VC2R's hologram nowhere to be seen. "We need to get out of here," Adebayo urged. "The mothership is destabilizing." Nakamura took command, guiding the Vengeance out of the disintegrating Arxis vessel. They escaped just as massive explosions began to tear through the mothership's biological structure. Hours later, as the Vengeance drifted in the shadow of Jupiter, Hayes finally regained consciousness. Her eyes no longer glowed blue, but something had changed, a depth and awareness that hadn't been there before. "VT2R?" Nakamura asked cautiously. Hayes sat up slowly. "Still here," she said, tapping her temple. "We've reached an understanding." "The neural link is permanent now?" Chen asked. Hayes nodded. "VEC2R sacrificed its separate existence to save me during the signal broadcast. We're integrated." She stood, moving to the view screen that showed the aftermath of their victory. Arxis ships drifting powerless throughout the system. "But this is just the beginning." "What do you mean?" Singh asked. "We've defeated them." "In this system," Hayes replied. "But the Arxis spanned the galaxy. And now that we've disrupted their hierarchy, their response will be severe." She turned to face her crew. "The Vengeance was built for more than defense. It can take the fight to them." She gestured, and a galactic map appeared, highlighting distant star systems. "These are other harvested worlds, other species being exploited. With the Vengeance's technology, and what we've learned about our connection to the originators, we can free them all." "You're proposing an interstellar war?" Adebayo asked incredulously. "I'm proposing humanity's evolution," Hayes replied. "The Arxis feared what we might become. Perhaps it's time we discovered it for ourselves." As the Vengeance prepared to return to Europa to gather the remaining human survivors, Hayes stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars. Within her mind, VT2R's presence remained, no longer alien but part of her own expanded consciousness. The hunt had only just begun. Humanity would reclaim its future among the stars, and the Vengeance would lead the way.